Hello, everyone. Welcome to Expansive Astrology Academy. I'm Melissa, and this is our Virgo season wrap up. Virgo season's over. We're moving into Libra season. It's feeling like fall, at least on this side of the world, this hemisphere. Virgo's over. Which is always, like, I love these. I always say this. I think I say this every time. I love these transitions between seasons because it's such an opportunity when we're really intentional about it. It is such an opportunity to really just look at and appreciate the ways one season really it sets us up for success in the next season. Like the way that we move throughout the astrological year is it's divine, it's divine, it's divine. And so being really intentional with what we've learned and how we want to use each season to support us in moving forward and further into more and more alignment and more happiness and more authenticity. When we're like, we want to be really intentional about that, right? Right? Like, yes, of course, duh. We're always evolving, and we get to do so really intentionally and really cognizantly, and that gets me jazzed. It just gets me jazzed. So let's just chat about it. Let's just kind of hop into it. Virgo season being an earth sign, we're moving into Libra season, the second air sign of the year. I don't know about you, but I love Libra energy. I'm so ready for Libra energy. Venus rules Libra, and like Venus is such a lovely, cozy planet. So we get to tap into. But let's back up. Say hi to Stanley, my bird. What has Virgo season provided us? Where are we growing, right? Virgo season being an earth sign, we've been really invited to tend to work on ourselves, our very earthly lives. That might sound kind of silly, but the element earth represents all things earthly, that being our work, money, how we feed our bodies, how we spend our time. All things like earthly and material are a point of conversation during an earth season or when we're in any sort of earth energy. And Virgo is a sometimes rather critical, but such a radical, perfect caretaker. Virgo has an eye for detail and cares to show up in a very effective, no nonsense sometimes type of way. Virgo's very practical, can be very perfectionist, very detail oriented, very hardworking. So hopefully throughout this season, you've been able to use that in a very empowered way, right? Because we can imagine, or maybe a lot of us have experience with that energy being really disempowered and really like muddy and just kind of shitty to work through when we're super militant or very critical with ourselves, when we struggle with perfectionism, when we like really break our own backs trying to maintain productivity, stuff like that. Virgo isn't, or when we're overly critical with the people that we love, it's not all internal, right? Virgo energy can be really difficult in those ways. And so the whole point, right, the entire invitation is to explore how to embrace what Virgo can bring in an empowered, helpful, healthy way. That's the whole point. So hopefully you've been able to explore like the ways that you don't tend to those things in a healthy, helpful, empowered way. Hopefully you've been able to really tune into and evaluate, experiment with the ways that you do show up for yourself and caretake yourself. Hopefully you've been able to establish a pretty solid set of routines where you know that you're taking care of business and you're not killing yourself, breaking your back, trying to get these things done. Sorry for using the words killing yourself. I don't like using that term. So I just want to name that and say sorry. Virgo invites us to really caretake and tend to our lives in the here and now, on the day-to-day, so that we can stay present and be effective in the present. Show up as effectively, as gently, as calmly, as carefully as we possibly can, moment to moment to moment to moment. Virgo is ruled by the Hermit, which is an energy of finding center, of slowing down and being with what is and working with what is, and just being in this step here, and then this next step after that, and then the next step after that. Be mastering where we are, caretaking where we are. So continue that. So don't let that only live within Virgo season. This is a hard thing to do. This is a very hard thing to do, and I sure haven't mastered it this season. And I am sure that you have room to grow in these areas too. And so we get to keep these commitments to ourselves, and we get to continue to really focus on this and honor our needs in these sorts of areas. And then we're entering into Libra season to help us do all of that and more. But before we get there, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say about Virgo. Virgo, because of its meticulous caretaking and because of its ability to just be present with what is in front of it, Virgo has a masterful way of making the most of what is right here, right now. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to bring myself back to, is like, how can I make the most of what exists right in front of me right now? Even if I kind of hate what's where I am and what is available to me. Like, even if it's totally wrong or unjust or, how can I don't want to use the word conquer because it's so like aggressive kind of, but how can I conquer and make the most of what exists right here? Virgo is also masterful at helping us be able to, and the Hermit as well, finding refuge within ourselves. Being able to be a sense of comfort and wisdom to ourselves in the moment. And I think that only gets stronger in Libra season, as Libra is like the master of the comfort zone. Let's talk about it. Libra is I don't know. I say this about a lot of the signs. Like, I love the sign of Libra, so I don't want to sound biased toward Libra because it's just one of my favorites. But Libra is so beautiful. Libra has such a brilliant and does a masterful job at finding comfort, creating comfort, bringing people together, making connections. Libra is charming and outgoing and really great at providing a sense of like security and harmony. Libra is friendly, it's reliable, it's harmonious, it's considerate. And Libra is brilliant at creating comfort. So that's why I say it's like the master of the comfort zone. Libra is able to kind of tap it. Being an air signs have an ability to they're very intellectual. The air signs are very intellectual, and so able to like see everything that needs to be seen, or a lot of the air signs, all of the air signs are really capable of intellectualizing what is in front of it. So because of that, and because Libra is ruled by Venus, Libra does a brilliant job of knowing what needs to be brought to a situation. Libra is able to, like, has a knack to tap into what would help make this setting, situation, experience, whatever, even more beautiful, pleasurable. Pleasure. Speaking of pleasure, because it's ruled by Venus, we get to chat about the Empress this season, and I love Empress energy because the Empress invites us to receive more pleasure, which is my tarot teacher Lindsay Mack, who is a brilliant, masterful, wonderful angel. Look her up. What was I going to quote her on? It could be a million things. I'm always quoting Lindsay Mack. She says that the Empress is about radical receiving, and she says that receiving is one of the hardest things that we can do as a human in this lifetime, in this culture of capitalism and prejudice and patriarchy. Receiving is difficult. So we're going to talk a lot about being in pleasure, creating pleasure for ourselves, receiving pleasure during Libra season. We're going to be talking a lot about balance, finding balance. Balance is a huge concept or keyword in Libra energy as well. So finding Virgo helps to prep us in finding our center, right? So that we can seek balance. And Libra also is concerned with justice. It's ruled by the Justice card in the tarot. What a time. I mean, Libra season comes around every year, so this theme comes around every year, but what a time to be exploring justice, right? With the election coming up in this country, with all of the injustice that occurs everywhere, and all of the ways that we're being called to explore what is just and explore where we stand individually and on a collective level, right? Justice is a huge theme should be all of us right now. I hope that all of us are concerned with justice. So Libra season is going to invite us into a whole lot of exploration around that. And that doesn't have to be a scary thing. And it fucking can be a scary thing because the world, there is so much injustice, right? So what do we do with that? How do we seek justice? How do we cope with the injustices that we may experience ourselves or witness or perpetuate? We're going to look at all of it. Libra medicine invites us to look at all of it. Let's see. We're going to use what we learned in the Hermit to help us in our relationships, which almost sounds funny because the Hermit is so singular, right? Is so within itself, and that doesn't mean it's opposite from relationships and connections with others. That just means it's one component of our lives, the Hermit. And then Libra rules the 7th house of relationships and connections and our like social health. So I'm just going to pose the question and not fill in the blank. Like, I just want to ask you and encourage you to explore. How do you think that work of the hermit and that work of just being with ourselves in our turtle shell, what is there a reason I always associate the hermit with turtles? I just realized that that might not be a thing. Where did I come up with that in my mind? Is that a thing? Please let me know. Hermit crab? That's not a turtle. So I don't know. I don't know where I make that association in my brain. Anyway, oh my God. Here's my question for you. How does that work of the hermit, and how does that work of like really just being with ourselves and finding refuge within ourselves and mastering what we are and what we have, how does that work help support us in the work of Libra, which is relationships and connections and intimacy with others and like being outgoing in a sense, not necessarily like extroverted, but like being willing to be seen, being willing to experience intimacy with other people, being willing to connect with other people. Libra is a master of those things. So what is the relationship there? Because I certainly see one, and I've experienced that so clearly in my own life. So it's just something to explore. Let's see. Libra invites us to explore how to indulge ourselves. Again, how to receive pleasure, create pleasure, experience beauty and pleasure without being like overindulgent or irresponsible or like, is gluttonous the word I really want to use? I don't think so. But without overdoing it, how can we balance that? How can we indulge ourselves in a healthy, empowered, helpful way? I think so many of us, let me know if this resonates with you. I think so many of us work so fucking hard and struggle so fucking much and deny ourselves pleasure or time off or play. Or at least we don't prioritize it enough. And then the risk of that, I think it's common for people to then crave it so badly that when they get a taste of it, when they get an opportunity to indulge and experience pleasure or play, we might do so in an irresponsible way. We might overdo it. We might step outside of our means. Or maybe, I don't know. We don't indulge in taking a time off and using our PTO. So then we get sick and we're forced to use our PTO. Or we don't indulge or allow ourselves to take time off or use PTO if you're privileged enough to receive PTO in your work, because that's certainly a privilege. We don't allow ourselves to take time off in mental health days and engage in pleasure. So then we find ourselves like playing hooky instead or calling in sick when we could really set ourselves up for pleasure and engage with pleasure in a healthy, welcoming, receiving way, or on the other end of that spectrum is like grasping for any ounce of pleasure that we can, and that can be really unhealthy, right? That can be in the form of self-medicating with drugs or alcohol, or being codependent on relationships, or like I said, calling in sick instead of planning your time off, or getting to the point where you work yourself sick. All unhealthy ways to indulge in space and pleasure. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. I hope that fits and serves. Finally, Libra invites us to explore, like, where do we find our self-esteem? Is it in our relationships with others? And if so, Is that healthy? I'm not here to make a judgment on that. Is it healthy? Does your self-esteem come from an internal place? We get to explore how to experience self-esteem from an internal place. So my plan for Libra season, we're going to talk all about Libra and how to embrace the most empowered side of Libra and how to kind of divorce ourselves from really disempowered Libra energy. We're going to talk about the Justice card and Justice energy and the Empress from the Tarot. We're going to talk about all things relationships, how we show up in relationships, how we seek relationships, the types of relationships we engage in, how we engage in and welcome intimacy, how comfortable we feel with intimacy, how deserving we feel of these things. Again, do we find our self-esteem within relationships, or do we have self-esteem independent of our relationships? A whole lot of that. And then we're also going to explore balance. In general, just balance. What else do I want to say about balance? That coping with injustice piece, that finding a comfort zone and feeling comfortable where we find ourselves while also being open to expanding. We're going to talk about balance. That's really general, and I kind of want to leave it that way for now. So I hope you'll join me. I'm always so excited, but I'm really excited for this season and what it's going to bring. Libra season is bringing some big changes. I know it. I can feel it. And I'm creating big changes. So I'm so thankful to have you here with me listening to these words. I really, really hope that they've served. I hope that they're helpful for you. And thank you so much for sticking around, for engaging with expansive astrology, and for letting me know how it's helped you. I love hearing from you on how you're using this stuff and how it's showing up for you. So don't hesitate to reach out if you want to share anything with me. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, take really, really, really good care of yourself. Have a little fun. I will talk to you soon.